What's going on, folks? Thanks for hitting that download button and checking out a brand new episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, your one-stop shop for toys, tech, and talk with some assembly required. I'm your host, Rich, and if this is the first time you're checking out an episode, first of all, welcome. Second, a bit about what we do here. Toys and Tech of the Trade is an interview series where we sit down with content creators, entrepreneurs, and just awesome folks that are on our radar and discuss the gadgets, the gear, and the tech that they use to run their business, create content, and most importantly, be more productive. Now, when it comes to toys, we don't just rely on the usual action figures, Funko Pops, the usual stuff you associate with toys. We look at toys in a more general sense, and we look at the things that people consider their toys, whether it's guitar picks, a knife collection, jet skis, cars, guns. Everyone's definition of toys is very, very different, and we embrace that general definition of toys on this podcast. Now, with that intro out of the way, let's get into this week's episode. But first off, we'll kick things off with a little housekeeping. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who's been reaching out with all of the positive feedback for the episodes we've been doing with the underdogs. I have really enjoyed getting to know all of these amazing people that are part of this community. And the thing about it is there's still so many more amazing stories that we have on deck that we are super pumped to share with you. Different creators, different entrepreneurial endeavors that are really on our radar and we're watching very closely because there's just some just amazing stuff happening. And it's partially why I'm doing this episode this week, and I'll get to that in a second. But the other thing I wanted to acknowledge was we've had a couple of shows come on board recently. Slaying for Me, hosted by Alexis A. McCoy, who many of you may know from Call Me When It's Over. She's the founder of Love Isn't Enough Productions. Heading into her 5th episode by the time we finish recording this one of Slaying for Me, and she has been truly, truly crushing it, bringing just a different dynamic to the Rageworks podcast network, tackling certain issues from a totally different perspective. And it truly is a breath of fresh air. So if you're looking for something different to check out in the more self-help, mental health space, give Alexis's podcast a listen, because she really is crushing it. And I thought her dynamic with Josie's Boy was great on Call Me When It's Over. But man, she's giving you these bite-sized nuggets of wisdom that address just different facets of life, whether it's entrepreneurship, being true to yourself, mental health. And they're just so positive, so refreshing. But more importantly, there's just that air of realism, just keeping it 100 that really comes out in her podcast. And I wanted to just take that moment and acknowledge that. I also wanted to give a shout out to Marcus Howard, who is hosting the Gamify Everything Beyond the Metaverse podcast. Marcus, many of you may know from his work alongside Sebastian, Tamika, and Derek on the Eat for Life podcast, which is it's nowhere near done. They took a brief hiatus. They are retooling and revamping that podcast, and they will be back, and we look forward to sharing new episodes with you in the future. But Marcus is working with Gamify and really just demystifying the NFT, cryptocurrency, blockchain space through amazing conversations, great interviews, and most importantly, just a refreshing, easy to access instruction on all of these particular things. Because NFTs, crypto, the blockchain, there's so many things happening in the space, from just people becoming millionaires to just usage of the technology itself. Marcus is doing a really good job sharing all of these different aspects with the listeners of the Gamify podcast. And I got to put that out there for you folks to check that out. Well, what this week's podcast is about is actually, we're going to be going guest free for this week. And I actually want to talk about networking. And the thing about it is that this came about from a few different outlets. Number one, it was from an episode that Alexis did on her podcast about networking, but also it came from attending some events organized by Long Island Networkers. It's a group of individuals that were put on my radar by Coach Danny Del Vecchio, who was a guest on a previous episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade. And the thing about it was, I saw Danny put them on my radar. And as a New Yorker living in the borough of Queens here in New York City, I always try and I strive to connect with people that are just building businesses, doing awesome stuff, and more importantly, that are experiencing some of the same struggles, if not comparable struggles to myself, either because I can learn from them, or in some instances, they can learn from me. So what ended up happening was Danny was attending an event, put me on their radar. I got to start following the Long Island Networkers group, connected with the founder, Adam Hurd, and very inviting, very welcoming, weekly check-ins. Hey, how's everything? Not trying to sell, not trying to do any of the typical stuff you would see from a quote-unquote networking group. On the contrary, this was a legitimate group of people that were trying to meet in the middle, so to speak, and help each other and get to know each other's businesses. And if there's a fit, great. If there's not a fit, it's just good to know one of those people. And the thing about it is, I looked at the group and I used a New York phrase that I'm sure you've heard in many movies, and it's, I know a guy. And the Long Island Networkers group is legitimately a group of the I know a guy variety. And it's a wonderful thing, because being involved in content creation and being an entrepreneur and different things, a lot of times you get invited to these networking events and it's incredibly transactional. It's, what do you do? Oh, here's my card, blah, blah, blah. Very, very, like I said, transactional. And a lot of people get soured on that. And the thing about networking is that it really is important. And networking shouldn't just be relegated to in-person events. Joining Facebook groups and talking to like-minded individuals, contributing on Instagram, being active on Twitter, those are all various aspects of networking, just done on different platforms and utilizing different approaches. But the thing about it is that you're always looking for a safe space or common ground to talk to people that either share your same interests or are just in the same space you are. So after talking back and forth with Adam and Coach Danny, I decided to attend my first event, and it was one of their leadership lunches. They had two speakers there, and they were talking about, branding, growing your business, etc. And the thing about it was that it was very informal. You go, you have a nice meal, a nice lunch in this case. You get a presentation, you hear from the speakers, you ask questions, and then shortly after, you have some time to network for about half an hour to an hour, and then you're done and you go home. After the event, Adam or someone from the Long Island Networkers will send out an email blast, and obviously they'll ask you first with emails for people to get in touch with each other. And the thing about it was, I walked in and initially I see realtors and all of these different people in there, and I'm like, again, there's that imposter syndrome, the self-doubt. You say to yourself, man, like what the hell can I bring to the table here? So one of the first things you do, you stand up, or in this case, you could stay seated, and you say who you are, what you do, and everybody went around the room, and again, lots of great people in there, but I didn't see commonalities yet. So as the presentation went on and there was talk of branding and social media and all this stuff, I gave my thoughts on it, and people were listening, and they had questions and they were curious. And the thing about it is that a lot of the stuff that's going out when it comes to growing your business or getting exposure, all of this stuff is online. All of this stuff is on the internet. And sure, you could go buy a course or an ebook or whatever, but I think that the best learning, at least in my opinion, comes from either hands-on learning or just having somebody explain it to you in a way that you can understand it very quickly. So in the midst of that, I gave my 2 cents on a lot of this stuff. And next thing you know, as the networking ended, a lot of people popped up as I was getting ready to leave to go and get my daughter from school, just asking questions about podcasting, how they can get started, if I had some time to do a call or catch up, etc. Just very, very genuine interest. And nobody was trying to shill. Nobody was trying to sell anything. People were just genuinely interested in what the other person did and if there was an opportunity for them to work together. And I just felt that that was very, very refreshing, at least for me. Mostly because, like I've said, I've gone to networking events before, sometimes in the gaming space, sometimes in the content creation space, and it felt, like I said, very salesy, very gimmicky. This was a nice lunch, a presentation, and it was cool. The other thing that I really enjoyed was that Adam, the founder of the group, he was like, listen, we're not trying to run this like your usual groups with your usual approaches. We're trying to do fun things, cool things, things that will allow you to learn and improve and meet other people, but also, more importantly, just have a good time. And the thing about it was, shortly after that event, they ended up doing a paint night, which I didn't attend just because there was some personal stuff going on in the real world, outside of Toys and Tech of the Trade and Rageworks, and I had to be present for that stuff. But funny thing was, ended up attending a second event recently, this past Thursday, and the thing about it was that we had the guest was Tom Marino. And now Tom is a leadership coach, and he's a published author, content creator, radio host. The guy was in the medical profession. This dude was an apex predator when it came to everyone else in the room. The guy could come in, had the gift of the gab, really, really polished, and just a genuinely thoughtful and nice person. And the thing about it was that he was there to talk about leadership and share his strategies, the things that he mentors people with. And the crazy part of it was that this guy commands $5,000 to come into a room and sit and talk and share leadership strategies. And here he was at this beautiful restaurant out on the island, just sharing all of this information for free. Now, obviously, there's underlying relationships, etc., but still, guy was in there, gave an amazing presentation, gave a lot of actionable, interesting information that, again, just made me think about how I function, not just as a leader when it comes to my organization, but just as a leader in the organization that is my own home. Because the funny thing is, I try to run my home like a business, and that's a conversation for another episode. But the thing about it is that there were certain things that he shared and certain aspects of his strategies that I was like, well, damn, that's an interesting way of approaching it. And, he talked about something that got my attention, which was the busy badge. And his stance on that, where people are always busy, 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 and you're supposed to really focus on, quote unquote, not being busy, having that time for your family or your other endeavors, like being smart with your productivity, being active in being a leader. And he talked about the difference between being a manager and being an owner, and there was just some real amazing stuff that came out of his presentation. And of course, he promoted his book, but it wasn't like, hey, buy my book. It was like, hey, I have my book here. If you guys are interested, you can check it out, whatever. And again, super refreshing. There were a couple of people I saw from the first meetup, really, really awesome people. Sal from Broadway Tires, Mr. Kersaint from Up Nexa, I could name all of the people from the previous meeting and shout them out. But the thing about it was that everybody came in, everybody was welcoming, inviting, and I felt like I was actually a part of something. And I thought that that's one of the highest forms of camaraderie you can have, feeling like you belong. There was no, oh, what do you do? Thumb my nose at what you do. There's people in there that were running, home renovation businesses, marketing firms. There was a traveling physical therapist. There were wedding planners, photographers, just an amazing, amazing group of folks. And again, nobody was selling anybody on anything. It's like, hey, this is what I do. And if there's any sort of camaraderie or a connection, hey, let's get in touch. And I met some amazing people. I met a lady who was a private investigator and had just a tremendous background. Tremendous. Like this lady was on some real like high level operative, high level government operative type stuff. And it was just crazy. Like, this person is here in this meeting and they wanted to talk to me. And it was funny, I was like the podcast guy, and not in a derogatory way, but here's a person who is championing a platform that many people may not want to play in, but that everyone should. And myself and this lady, we had an amazing conversation. And the thing about it was that I was telling her, she told me about her background, and I said, man, with people's interest in crime and government and everything else, like, you have some amazing stories that I think people would enjoy, whether as you running your own podcast or being a guest. There's a tremendous opportunity there. And the thing about it was, she was like, man, I agree. There's some awesome stuff. So she may be starting her own podcast, or better yet, she may be guesting on a few podcasts. I told her a couple of platforms, different things. We had an awesome conversation, and who knows, she might even be a guest on this podcast. And obviously that's a conversation for another day. But the whole point of this is that the networking aspect of this group was, like I said, in a non-salesy and truly genuine sort of way. Everybody knows each other. People try and support each other's businesses when they can, if there's a fit. And this goes back to what I said before about being a group. The alias for that group should be, hey, I know a guy, or I know a young lady, or I know a person, because that's what it's really all about. And, Jimbo Slice, who many of you know from our work on the variant issue, I always tell him the phrase, one hand washes the other, both wash the face. And it's cliche, and I'm sure everyone has heard variations of that. But the thing about it is that when you are in a business, a lot of times you're always taught to keep everything to yourself. Don't share anything, or hide everything. And, sometimes there's a time and a place for that. But I think that we would get further ahead being more transparent, talking about our struggles, talking about the things that really motivate us to wake up every morning, to start our businesses, to do the best work we can. And I thought that attending these last two meetings, these two different meetings with this particular networking group, was exactly that. Seeing all these different folks that, again, are in different fields, different industries, but they have some of the same problems that I have, whether it's managing your time, getting the word out, opening a brick and mortar space. And the thing that got me was something that Adam did that I'm going to share with all of you. I messaged with him, and after the meeting, the first thing he said, I was like, listen, I have to go. Thank you for the opportunity to come and be involved, etc. And he was like, what did you think? First words, what did you think? And I was like, hey, it was great, very informative. I learned a lot. There's a lot of amazing things I took from this. And he was like, good. That's what it's all about. And it wasn't, hey, when are you coming to the next one, or nothing. No sort of a pitch. It was, did you gain something from it? And the second part of our conversation was, do you need anything? How can I help you? And I think that right there speaks volumes of Adam as a professional, and just the way that the group conduct themselves, because all of the people that were there were like, hey, if you need anything, feel free to reach out. If you want any help, feel free to reach out. I got to give a special acknowledgement to Autumn Beam, who I met at the first event. We had a call shortly after, and next thing you know, this lady, she's a super connector. She is 100% the executive vice president of the I Know a Guy Club, or I know a girl, or a person, etc. We had a good conversation. We talked about the work we did, etc. Within a day or two, she's like, hey, you should talk to this person, or hey, this person might be a great fit for something you're working on, or hey, this person might want to learn more about podcasting, etc. Like just rapid fire, like boom, boom, boom. These are people you might want to talk to. And in the midst of that, I had like 4 different calls with just amazing, uniquely talented people that, more importantly, were in my backyard. And that speaks volumes, because think about it. We walk around trying to find people that are in our niche or in our sphere of influence. And sometimes they're right in our backyard and we don't even know it, either because we don't go to those events, or we're worried that, again, imposter syndrome creeps in, like, maybe I don't belong in this event, etc. So, big shout out to Autumn for really stepping up and providing some amazing contacts and people that I've spoke to over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the thing about it is, some of them might be future podcast guests. Some of them might be future podcast clients. Who knows? But the thing about it is, some of them may just be people that you end up having lunch with. Simple as that. I talked to a guy that she put on my radar who's into comic books and into all the same stuff I am. Just randomly says, hey, man, I checked out your site, man. I used to be heavy into books. I got like 5, 6, 7 long boxes in my garage. And we ended up not even talking business. We talked about like comic books and stuff. And I sent like a follow up, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go see the Batman. And I mean, that's awesome. It's awesome that you could just talk business and then talk about all this cool stuff that you and that person are into, those commonalities. And that's what it's all about. And the reason I'm recording this episode isn't just to sing the praises of all of those people in the group, but it's because I want to tell all of my fellow creators out there that, listen, you are not alone. There's other creators out there. You just got to find them. Especially if they're in your own niche. And the thing about it is, there's countless ways that you can connect, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook groups or Discord, or I'm the Slack group for the underdogs that I'm in, Noah Kagan's community. I've met at least 10 people out of that group that are just aces, Jan, Boris, the list goes on and on, the entrepreneur. I mean, amazing folks. And like I said, some of them you'll hear on this podcast. Others you may hear me talk about because they're helping me level up personally, professionally, hell, mentally in some cases. I mean, when I talked to Anna Fitzgerald, I felt myself level up mentally and emotionally after that conversation. And you can't put a price tag on that stuff. So I want to keep things brief just to not drag this out, but I want to tell all of you, try and find communities in your area, whether it's virtually or in person. Connect with them, talk with them, participate in these groups, go and show up. It's like, hey, everybody's meeting at this Starbucks for coffee. Show up. Even if you don't drink coffee, drink a bottle of water. show up, talk. Hey, this is what I am. This is what I do. You never know who's there. You never know who might be a potential client, a potential friend, a potential business partner, a potential investor. Put yourselves out there. And believe you me, not everyone is out there to steal your ideas, to steal your shine. Some people genuinely want to help. And that's not to say that there's not bad actors out there or disingenuous people that are doing scummy stuff, because they're definitely out there. But the thing about it is that for every dud, there's going to be five A+ players that you're going to want to have in that Rolodex. You know, definitely do your strive to be part of these groups. And more importantly, be the person that when you walk in, everybody's like, hey, they're excited that you're there. Bring value, be of service, whether it's some advice or, more importantly, just listen. Just listen, because sometimes people may have a problem that may not be 100% relevant to you. But guess what? You have a friendly face and a welcome ear. And sometimes some folks just need that type of a presence to unload on. And you know what? You'll hear them out. They'll appreciate it. They may not, sit there and pat you on the back about it, but they'll remember, like, hey, so and so was at this meeting. I was in a real rough patch with my business. He or she heard me out. They gave me some decent advice, and they motivated me to keep going. I mean, I was in a similar place after my chat with Gary Vee, and I've talked about that. And my support system, whether it was the people I work with in RageWorks, my wife and a few others, they were like, listen, man, just dust yourself off and stay in the game. And here we are with, almost 10 shows under the network umbrella, countless listeners, amazing opportunities, stellar stories that I'll be able to talk about in future episodes. And I think that, that's what it's all about. The journey is great, but the people you meet along the way is a reward in itself. All right. I think that's a nice way to close things out. Be on the lookout for more episodes featuring the underdogs. We may have an episode with Tom Marino in the future. Keep it locked to Toys and Tech of the Trade for that. Last but not least, if you are a local here in the Queens or Long Island area, look up the Long Island Networkers, reach out to Adam, see if you could be part of that community. Come to a meeting. Even if it, it doesn't have to be the paint nights or any of that stuff, just come to a lunch. And you know what? Just like Danny Del Vecchio was there to welcome me and help me feel at home, I'll be at one. Just come through, say what's up. I'll shake your hand. We'll break some bread. We'll level up. And who knows? I may be the next business person that may help you on your journey. But again, that's going, like I said, super local for my Queens and Long Island peeps who consume this podcast. But nonetheless, find your version of Long Island Networkers in your neck of the woods. Like I said, whether it's virtually or in person, and go out there, put yourself out there, because it may be the shot in the arm you need to level up your business. All right, calls to action. As always, you can find RageWorks on all social media platforms in some shape, way, or form. So just punch in RageWorks and you can find us there. If you want to connect with me, you can email me, rich@rageworks.net. Want to be a guest on a future episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade? Same email, or fill out the contact form on our site, rageworksnetwork.com. Last but not least, as always, if you have a chance, please take a moment and give us a rating on the Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. We truly, truly appreciate it. And hell, I may just start reading them on air and, finding ways to reward those folks that help us out with a review. Shout out to Jason Ferrugia, who does that on his Renegade Strength show. He gives out bags of athletic greens. Obviously, I don't got it like that, but we can always figure something out. But still, if you have a moment and you thought we brought the heat and delivered, give us a review. We would really, really appreciate it. As always, new episodes of Toys and Tech of the Trade come out every 2 weeks. So keep it locked to RageWorksNetwork.com, Toys and Tech of the Trade. on any of your favorite podcast platforms and enjoy all of our episodes. Thank you guys for your continued support and lending me your ears for a little over 30 minutes. I'll catch you guys in 2 weeks. Peace. Toys and Tech of the Trade is part of the RageWorks podcast network, your source for rants about gaming, entertainment, and the works. Visit us at RageWorksNetwork.com.